Ooh, what in tarnation is y'all doing here? This ain't no gosh darn hootin' hollerin' public vegetable farm. This is a privately owned fan fiction farm. So get your boots off our fresh planted fix. Obviously, that was just for the children due to the adult themes and language. Now that they're gone, right this way to the podcast.
I feel like we could write a series of fan fictions just with Alan Rickman, or rather Snape, in literally
Working places.
in every anime. Just Snape in Demon Slayer. Snape as one of the...
Excellent.
Yeah. Nice. Very important.
Wait.
Well, hello, strangers, and welcome back to another episode of Stranger Than Fan Fiction, the show where we celebrate the fans and the fiction by reading fiction from the fans. I'm leaving the podcast, guys. Big shocker. Big news. I'm
Why?
starting my own brand of self-affirmation kitchen spreads called I Can Believe It's Butter. I'm Wes.
Wow. Wow. I am the monarch with two mandibles, Lady Jaja Reese.
And I'm the secret cryptid you've never heard of, Dan Hunter.
And I just changed my name to Fred. And legally.
Wow.
Wow.
Why?
And I'm going to open up a store where I sell banana bread, and it's called Fred's Banana Bread. Taha.
That's cute. I'm like thinking, is there a deeper joke in that?
Yeah.
Somewhere.
I'm the meme of the girl with like
Yeah.
all of the math
Yeah.
and like geometry on her. Like,
I'm performing the calculations.
well, welcome back again, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. If you don't already know, this show is where we read fan fiction, talk about it, and just have a good time for like a half hour, 45 minutes. So thank you so much for joining us. Guys, going into kind of what the fan fiction's about today, I have a question for you guys.
Okay.
I'm curious, what can you think of something that was in your childhood, something that you wanted desperately, but you couldn't have it? You either weren't allowed to, you were told you couldn't have it, but like it's just something that was always, man, if I could, and it could be a thing, it could be an experience, something that you were denied.
Marshmallows.
Marshmallows.
Oh, because is that...
So I grew up in a Muslim family, and a lot of things had gelatin in them.
Yeah.
Marshmallows were one of them. Now, this was in the early part of my my childhood, right?
Mhm.
So this was like in the formative s'more years, right? You remember when everybody was fucking having s'mores, and you're like, I was out on a Boy Scout retreat,
it was the new
and
bread.
they were eating s'mores, and I was like, I just had graham crackers with chocolate.
Still pretty good.
It was
but
good,
I'm sure,
but it's not the same,
It's lacking
man.
yeah.
It missed
It's
that-
something that you
fluff.
want, something that you need. But then we found a Desi grocery store that sold halal marshmallows.
Oh,
And I had my first
heck.
s'more.
How was it?
It's pretty good.
It's okay. I'd say transformative, but sure.
It's not bad.
Well, because I feel like a marshmallow without gelatin is like a lot of the like gluten-free like bread products where it's just like it's missing something. Like there's a reason gluten is a very common ingredient in bread stuff.
I will say it doesn't make much of a difference.
Oh, really?
Later on, I've had. I'm sorry to the Muslim community, but I've had a marshmallow with gelatin in it.
Well, I mean, gelatin
Yeah.
is
And
gelatin
with all of you guys in the
it's-
Muslim community.
It's being removed in a lot of stuff now too. Like
Well, yeah.
gelatin was used in like Sour Patch Kids and Skittles and all
Because
that
there's
shit.
just so many other alternatives,
There's
that do
alternatives
the
to it.
exact same thing that don't require
Yeah.
gelatin anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
And plus, like, a lot of it's not just the Muslims, right? Like, I know the Jewish community, they observe trying to keep things kosher, obviously.
Mhm.
Keep it kosher. Just keep it kosher.
Keep it kosher.
But yeah, it was just like, you never expected it. Like, as a kid, when your mom tells you no, and you're like, no, you can't have it. It has gelatin in it. Same thing with, like, pepperoni pizza and all that stuff. You're just like, well, fuck, I wanted even more.
Pepperoni pizza have Jello in it?
Had Jello.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
pepperoni is actually Jello. All of it.
Little known fact.
What about you guys?
Something for me that I remember very vividly, was there was it, and it probably wasn't as big of a deal as I was making it, but when I was in like 5th or 6th grade, I was selected as part of like a young achievers kind of program for students who had like exceptional grades to do study abroad programs. And they like send out these letters to kids whose grades were good enough, and they're basically, and it was through the school. Like my teacher handed it to me. It was like, yeah, this is for you. I was told to give these out to students who do really well. And it was an opportunity to go to Australia for like a couple months.
Wow.
As like a the next year as like a 13-year-old or something like that. So when I was going into middle school, and I would have like a host family, all like X, Y, and Z, and they would like talk about all the experiences that you would do and blah blah blah, and it just seemed really cool because at the time I had only been to like Iowa and Minnesota and Ohio.
The three most important
The three
states.
most important states. The anchors.
Yeah.
The pillars of our great United States of America.
Truly.
They unite there.
Yes.
Yes.
The central point is the convergence of the universe.
Yes.
And I just remember really wanting to do this. And I showed it to my mom. She's like, "Oh, that's super cool." And there was like a meeting date to go and like talk to people about it. And I remember we went, and as soon as they were like, "Yeah, it's like $5,000 to do this whole thing,"
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh no!" And I looked up at my mom, and she was like, already looking at her phone, and I was like, no. Needless to say, it didn't happen. But I just I remember that so much because I like got so hyped up about it. I was like, "Oh, this is so cool," and I felt so like exclusive. But I'm sure that was something that was sent out to like a lot of kids. But it was such a cool thing that I was like, "Oh, that'd be so fucking cool."
Being like a gifted kid gets expensive.
Yes,
Because there's all these opportunities.
It's
They're
so
like,
hard being so smart,
it's so
right?
fucking hard being so smart. I hate it. God, I wish I wasn't such a genius. Yeah. No, mine was pretty stereotypical because I have this weird like dichotomy about me where I both want to be cool and popular, but also want to resist
Are
being
not cool and popular.
Yeah, basically. Like that's basically it. I like simultaneously want to be in the mainstream and trendy, and then I also resist trends. So there's this weird dichotomy about me, and I've pretty much grown out of it. I don't really feel the need to be super trendy anymore. But when I was in like middle school and elementary school, obviously everyone's like, "Well, I just want to fit in." And so even though there was that part of me that was like, "No, fuck all trends," another part was like, "Okay, but I gotta hop on the trend because I want to fit in." So it was like the Live Strong bracelets.
Dude, I remember that.
before.
Yeah, everyone had them, and people would fucking like. It must have looked ridiculous how many some of these people had.
It was a collector. It was a collector's item for a while.
Yeah.
Can I tell like a quick sub story to my own Live Strong thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have very very small wrists. Like
We make
was
fun of him constantly.
I was
Hot thin
actually,
wrist.
as a kid, I was very, very self-conscious about it, and because I was just a scrawny little kid, like I had no fucking meat on my bones. So when I first got my Live Strong bracelets, one of my friends gave one to me. He had an extra one. I remember that day very well because it blew my mind. I almost cried. But the bracelet was too big for my wrist. And so it would literally
Just
like
slip off.
fall off my hand. So what I did, I went home to my mom. I was like, "Mom, I need this bracelet to fit so I can look cool with my friends." She cut off like
Your hand.
She snipped off like part of the bracelet and then stitched it back together with
A rubber bracelet?
yeah.
What?
Yeah, and it lasted for like
Yeah.
a pretty good while.
Damn, Mom.
It was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
And then it fell apart, and I think that was around the time when the trend was falling
trend
apart.
was
so I was
dying.
like,
Yeah.
this is
it was
this is
very
perfect.
apt.
Do you guys
as soon
remember-
as your bracelet fell off was the day that everyone
That the trend stopped.
caring.
And so it was me who ended the trend. So you're welcome, America.
Do you guys remember the sex bracelets?
Yes.
the what?
Did you guys have those? It must, maybe okay. So
I did.
there's these little bracelets where if you broke the person's bracelet, it would mean that you want to perform a certain sexual act with that person.
What?
Depending on the color of the bracelet.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we
Yeah,
both
no,
had
I
this.
remember
yeah.
this.
Yeah. But of course we're
You're
in
not
fucking.
describing silly bands, are you?
No. We were in. It was. I remember this happening in literally elementary school.
Yeah, I remember it in elementary school too.
Yeah, and so of course nobody's actually doing any of these sexual acts. They're elementary schoolers, but they're like, yeah, blowjobs, something.
Yeah, nobody knew what it meant. It
Yeah.
was like, oh, you broke a green one. That means you have to blow
blows
them.
to someone. Yeah, whatever.
The black one was
It was
like,
so ridiculous. It was so ridiculous.
What
Anyway,
the hell?
That's
yeah,
so
I didn't
crazy.
necessarily want to hop on that trend, but like the Live Strong one was definitely something that I was like, oh, I want more. I want some of
I
those.
want
And so
more.
I remember I went.
I want to support Neil Armstrong.
They were like
Lance
15
Armstrong? Lance Armstrong.
Neil Armstrong.
Lance Armstrong. I always got him confused.
But yeah, no, we like everyone had them, and they would have them like lining their arms, like so many of them, and I wanted just like a few. But they were like $15 a piece.
Yeah,
and
man.
so we went to Dick's or something with my
They
mom,
milked that.
some
Milk.
sports shop in the area, and we got one. And I was like, nice. I think we might have even gotten like an off-brand one. Like it wasn't even a real Livestrong bracelet. It was some like knockoff. And I was like, this will work.
Hunter,
I
what
know.
about you?
Whoever had the most colors were the best.
Yeah.
So mine was a pretty isolated incident, and it comes with a small story. So every year, me and my cousin Jake and his dad would go on a ski trip, and there was one year where the ski trip fell. It always fell on like the same week. It was usually Super Bowl weekend, but this one it was the same weekend that this like life group middle school retreat was happening, and or no, it was in high school. This high school retreat was happening, and at my life group we had been talking, and we got to the end of the world as a part of the conversation, and
Deep.
we
How old were you?
Oh, I was like a freshman.
3.
Okay,
I was like 14,
Okay.
going on 15. And as I was in that life group, my life group leader was like, yeah, one day the world's going to end. And we need to make sure that we're living in a way that we get accepted into the kingdom of heaven. And I was like, oh my God. It's so close. And he said, he was like, yeah, I think it'll probably happen sometime in my 50s. And he was in his 20s. And I was like, oh my God. And then I just started thinking of like all these ways that I could like dive in. And one of them was this retreat that was happening at the same time as the ski trip. And the ski trip had already been planned for months. Blah, 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 blah. It was a yearly thing. And I remember sitting my parents down and being like, I don't know if I can go ski this year. And they were like, what or what? And I was like, I have to go to this retreat because one day the world's going to end. And of course, my poor parents must be like, what the fuck are they feeding you in there? And they told me, they were like, Hunter, let's give this a month. Like the ski trip is a couple months away. Let's just think about it. And I was like, I don't know if my decision is going to change because I have to help. And they were like,
I have to go to heaven.
oh
Mom.
my God. And then my parents were like, okay, you got to chill out. And so eventually, of course, like a month passed and things were fine. And I ended up going on the ski trip and it was a blast and I don't regret it at all. But I remember in that moment, I was like, I want this more than anything in the world. I want it for heaven.
Yeah. I'm doing this for God.
But then you got over it because you were like, oh wait, I'm just going to Super Life.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
just gonna
I was
go to
gonna go to
Super Life.
Super Life.
So it's gonna be chill. Whatever.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
man.
I want to get some Super Life T-shirts made.
yeah, I think
hell
that's
yeah.
when
That'll
my
be our first merch.
Heaven on
yeah,
the
they're
front.
right. Super
Heaven on the
Life.
front, hell on the back.
hell on the back.
Hell
Heaven
yeah.
on the front, hell in the back.
Hell yeah. Along with our Cornelius
Cornelius
J.
Cobb.
Cobb
Yeah.
shirts. Yeah.
One like clarifying question. You mentioned the generic Live Strong. What would that slogan be? Like the Kroger brand of Live Strong.
Exist Exist well.
Exist well.
The Exist Well bracelets.
Breathe effectively.
For Neil Armstrong.
For Neil, yeah, that's right.
One small step.
God damn it, Neil Armstrong. I salute you.
Space, the real space cowboy.
You space cowboy, Neil
Oh
Armstrong.
man.
All right, everybody. Thank you for that. I think it's time we move into our weekly prompts.
Yeah,
What
let's
you
do
guys
it.
think?
Let's bust it.
All right. So the first of all, the weekly prompt is we scour Reddit, which by scour I mean I take a minute.
Hours.
And exactly, hours of minutes. To look up a writing prompt on the Reddit forum writing prompts. And we're going to make up a little 5-minute story about what we've found. And this kind of comes from, we recently watched Godzilla vs. Kong together. If you haven't seen it, it is just
It's a bad movie.
it's a dumpster fire
Yeah.
of a writing project.
Yeah.
But you know,
The animation's fun.
It's
big
amazing.
monkey punch big lizard,
Yeah,
and
if
that's
you want,
fun.
If you want big boom fight booms, then it's not bad.
Yeah.
So this
Very,
is
very good on that front.
Just walk out on the dialogue and come back when the
Yeah,
fight
exactly.
starts, honestly.
Anytime anyone's speaking and there isn't a roar happening,
You can, like, text or
just
whatever,
Like,
yeah.
just
Yeah.
like get on your phone.
Yeah.
no one cares.
But the moment like suspenseful music starts playing, pay attention.
Yeah. So this is from Reddit user Dragon Lover 4612. Thank you, Dragon Lover.
And thank you for loving dragons.
Thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing.
I hate everything. I hate everything. I hate this podcast. This prompt says, a kaiju is shrunken down to the size of a kangaroo by the anti-kaiju defense force during its latest battle in Tokyo. As a result, the kaiju wanders through the city at night and discovers an entire world of beauty it had never seen while it was 120 meters tall.
The AKDF, huh?
Anti-kaiju defense force.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
my first my first thought of this was turning it into a story, sort of like a self-fulfilling prophecy story, almost like a sad story, where the kaiju is shrunk down and can coexist with man, and discovers the wonders of living with these people that this monster has been destroying up till now. But then, as they slowly integrate into society, they start to become the real monster, which is humanity.
Oh.
And the kaiju starts going to a desk job.
So he starts like maybe he goes into politics.
Yeah, yeah. And he like puts on a little over his little lizard head. He puts on a little suit and a little tie.
And he has like a kaiju wife that's kind of like,
Well, today's the day, sweetheart.
It's like, and it becomes Godzilla becomes the real monster. He becomes one of us.
So what you're telling me, Godzilla, is that if we slash the wages, we can increase our overall
Productivity.
It's risky. We can't let anybody know, but I like the idea.
He becomes like a hedge fund manager.
You're twisted, Godzilla. I like you.
And when everybody holds the GameStop stocks, he's like,
And like a beautiful, he's married to a beautiful woman, and she's like, it's all about money for you, isn't it? She's like throwing things, and he's like,
He gets mad and he's like,
oh, there it is.
fucking carves their house in half. And she's like, always with
I'm
the
going to
laser.
stay with my mother.
My mother is not a monster. You are.
The monster here, you are.
And then like it goes through a flash to the weekend where he's like,
yeah, imagine like another kaiju getting shrunk down and like trying to console Godzilla, being like,
Mothra.
Mothra shows up as a small kangaroo-sized Mothra, like,
She's just
Godzilla.
Mothra
What
gets just
happened?
turned into a normal moth.
Starts flying into a lamp for hours.
And Godzilla's like,
That's the beauty. That's the beauty that Mothra has been missing this whole time.
It's
the
light.
beauty of lamps.
Then why hasn't? Then here's the question: there's a giant lamp that we've been ignoring.
the sun.
Why hasn't Mothra just flown into the sun?
I feel like Godzilla is Mothra's lamp. because he lights up
Oh yeah.
every time he fires a
Aw.
laser.
That's so
And she's like,
cute.
And they're gonna have little lizard moth babies.
Oh, they're flying lizard. Ugh.
Yeah.
Are flying lizards a thing? Do flying lizards exist in our world
Flying
today?
lizard. What would be the closest thing? Like a pterodactyl?
Yeah, but I'm like, is there like a
Is
modern
an
equivalent?
equivalent?
to that nowadays?
There are lizards that have like that have
Yeah.
their legs and arms are like connected by a thing. I think
A membrane?
I
Oh,
don't
like-
think I'm making that up, but I don't think
by
it's,
sticks.
I don't think it's for flying.
By sticks.
I don't think it's for flying. I think it's for like jumping from tree to tree.
Oh,
all
like
nimbly-bimbly
gliding.
like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let
So
I don't know if there are any like reptiles that do that.
So we've got
Let me look it
my
up.
story where Godzilla becomes a hedge fund manager.
yeah.
Is there an alternative, Hunter?
I've got one.
Uh-huh.
So we all know that Kong is a very lonely monkey.
Very lonely monkey.
Lonely monkey.
But when he gets shrunk down,
Oh.
he meets Coco.
Oh.
Who's Coco?
The sign language
The sign
gorilla?
language gorilla that was friends
yeah.
with like Robin Williams.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
because I remember watching a documentary about Coco about how she was like trying to find a mate to have children. And what better queen for the king than Coco the gorilla? She teaches him so much language, and he begins to like talk with her. And then when they have a child, he teaches them how to speak through sign language and begins the progenation of the superior gorilla race, and then
Okay.
takes
Planet
over
of
the
the
world.
Apes.
Planet of the Apes. Yes, Planet of the Apes.
Nice segue.
So there are not really flying reptiles, but there are gliding reptiles. Yeah.
What is a gliding reptile?
Like I said, they've got like the
sugar
membrane
gliders.
in between.
do they
their-
exist like right now?
Yeah.
What
What
is
are they?
one?
There's a snake that does
Um,
it too, I think.
We have
Oh,
the
God.
genus Draco, consisting of about 42 species of
Draco.
rather small lizards in the Agamidae family, which can achieve a very respectful glide angle of about 9.5 degrees.
Draco Agamite.
These have very elongated ribs that spread out with the covering of skin to create their wings, flattened hind limbs, and a small neck flaps to act as stabilizers.
What's the matter, Potter? Bit beyond your reach.
As Jake goes his ribs flatten out. He's like, "Oh, I don't need a broom."
Oh God!
Oh God!
Draco, what have you done?
Bloody
I'm an animagus.
Bloody hell!
Of course, you'd be confused by this, you filthy mudblood.
Well, that's a
Licks his
perfect-
eyeball.
This is a perfect. We have to stop now because that's a perfect segue.
It is a perfect segue.
That's a really good segue.
Into our fan fiction for today. So, listen, audience.
Audience,
I have to apologize and say thank you at
And
the
you're
same time, because I don't know what the world has come to, but apparently the insurance cinematic universe, the ICU, where we're sending you all, is a wealth of just incredible fan fiction material, and it would be remiss of me. Is that the right way to say that?
Yeah, I think so.
Whatever.
I'd be
I'd be
remiss.
I'd be
too.
remiss to not give you another taste of more of the insurance verse.
It all started with "Can you hear me now, guy?"
Yeah, and it's which truly, like, insurance companies have created their own like universes
Yeah.
of characters, which is just crazy. So this particular story is called Akio Insurance, and I bet you can tell where this is going. This is a Harry Potter and insurance cinematic universe crossover. This is like all insurance, even things that aren't even around anymore, because this was published in on December 19th, 2015, so about 6 years ago. It's written by author Merlin Missy, or MT Gat.
Mitgat,
Mitgat?
Mount Gat.
Mount Gat.
MTG at.
No, it's definitely not that.
It's not Magic
Shut up,
Gathering
plays Magic
at.
the Gathering.
No.
Nobody. Not
So this is just, it's wholesome, it's funny, it's lovely. I'm so happy that I found this, and it's probably going to lead to me finding a lot more insurance fan fictions.
This is what's gonna
Welcome.
Like launch the niche of our podcast.
Yes, we're gonna change it to
Stranger than insurance
fiction.
fraud.
insurance fraud.
Stranger than insurance fraud.
So for this fiction, Taha, you'll be our narrator, and you will also be Mayhem's second father. Hunter, you'll be Flo and Aaron from Esurance. Reese, you'll be Flo's father.
Yes.
Mayhem's first father.
Yes.
Professor Haysbert, which is the Allstate guy, and various other people.
Is that the
that's all state?
Stan.
Are you in good hands? Are you in good hands?
Okay, yes. Yeah. And I am playing Mayhem, Leslie/Steve, and you'll find out who that is, and various others. And then we're all the farmer's kids.
I can't wait to be a farmer's kid.
A farmer. I'm just a farmer's boy.
Make it happen, Mom.
All right. Without any further ado, Taha, take it away.
The day Flo turned 11 years old, she woke up to a very strange sight. A duck held a letter for her in its bill. After she screamed and feathers flew everywhere around her bedroom, the duck dropped the red envelope on her bed and waddled off, muttering obscenities. Flo read her name in black ink. Curious, she opened the envelope to discover a letter written in a neat, tiny handwriting that was almost perfect mimicry of typed 12-point courier. Welcome. You have been selected to attend Aflac School of Insurance Sales, the premier school for teaching young minds about the high art of selling insurance. The letter went on for a while with half a dozen legal provisions and subclauses, which, it must be said, Flo read very carefully.
Mother! Father!
She shouted, running out of her bedroom still in her nightie, clutching the letter up high in the air.
I've been accepted into insurance school!
My daughter isn't attending any insurance school,
Said father over his bacon and eggs.
I was an aglet salesperson my whole life, as was my father before me. You are going to sell aglets? Is that the right word?
Aglet is the little piece of plastic on the end of shoelaces.
You are going to sell aglets, and you are going to like it.
But father, I want to save the world by giving people discounts on their insurance policies.
Aglets.
2 months and a short yet furious shoelace war later, Flo dragged her wheeled suitcase alone to the Greyhound station, ticket to Aflac clutched in one determined hand. She strode up to the kitchen. She strode up to the ticket counter.
When is the bus to Aflac?
The ticket seller stared at her blankly.
Next bus goes to St. Louis.
I'm going to Aflac. I need to know when the bus arrives.
St. Louis.
He repeated, and walked away. Behind her, she heard a family come in. 2 dads and a little boy.
Did you say Aflac, dear?
Asked the taller dad, who smiled kindly at her. Flo nodded.
Our son is here, going to the school for the first time, too.
We're both alums, said the shorter dad.
We're
so proud of him,
I'm Flo.
she said, sticking out her hand. The boy stared at her hand, then he said,
I'm a nail. I've been hanging out on this road for like a week, maybe 2, getting nice and rusty, and just waiting for your car to drive right over me.
Mayhem's a natural all-state.
said the first dad.
Do you know where you're hoping to be sorted?
Sorted?
Before they could explain, a bus puffed up to the bus station, unlike any bus Flo had ever seen before. Where every square inch wasn't covered in bumper stickers, she could see psychedelic paint and bright orange flowers and peace signs. Other children lined up, all holding the same weird ticket Flo had found with her letter. Beside her, Mayhem's dads kissed him on the cheeks and ruffled his hair. Do us proud, said the second dad.
I'm a lollipop. Dropped onto the carpet last night by your toddler. Ants love me.
Flo handed the driver her suitcase and was handed a receipt. She got onto the bus and found a seat by the window. She was joined a few minutes later. She looked down at her seatmate. He waved up at her.
Hello, miss. Ready for Aflac?
I'm excited. It's always been a dream of mine to help people save money.
Same.
He whistled to himself. Flo couldn't help herself.
Have you been a lizard long?
All my life. Bit of a tip. I prefer gecko myself.
Sorry, I'm Flo.
Leslie.
The gecko hiccuped.
I mean, Steve. Yeah, call me Steve.
Leslie is a nice name, Steve.
You try growing up named Leslie and only 4 inches tall and see how much you like it.
The gecko eased back into the bus seat.
I'm hoping to be sorted into Geico. What about you?
What's sorting?
Nothing major. Just when you arrive, the school decides where you're going to work the rest of your bleeding life. Just don't put me into farmers is all I ask.
What's farmers?
The gecko pointed to the front of the bus where a small chorus of children kept humming,
We are farmers. Bum 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 bum.
They're in the chorus?
Sure.
In the seat in front of them, an older blonde girl chatted amiably with her seatmate, then vanished. Flo would have stood up sharply if it wasn't for her fastened safety belt.
What happened to her?
She asked the other girl anxiously. The second girl shrugged.
Someone said the jangle and summoned her. She'll be back.
The bus trip took several hours, during which time the little blonde girl appeared and disappeared, apparently being summoned home by her parents to collect her forgotten school items. Flo read her favorite book, Price Wars of the 1960s, to pass the time while Steve snored in the next seat. Behind her, she heard Mayhem introduce himself to the other children on the bus as, variously, a squirrel, a loose shingle, and a shard of glass. At dusk, the bus pulled up in front of a huge castle. Flo stared at the carefully blunted tips of the iron fence, the bright spotlights flooding the grounds, and the obviously up-to-date windows. Helpful signs were posted, including, "Watch your step," "Beware of dog," and "Path freezes before grounds. Use caution."
Go on. Get your belongings. Your belongings will be delivered to your rooms. Keep your receipts.
The children shuffled off the bus. The older children waved to the bus driver, who had his identification and insurance information displayed for easy viewing.
See you in December,
They said. Flo followed behind, with Steve and Mayhem close behind. They filed into the front hall. A pink-haired girl met them.
I'm Erin,
She said.
head of house insurance. All first years follow me this way. The rest of you may go into the great hall.
She led Flo and the rest off to a small room.
Hi. Hi. How many of you are super nervous right now?
Several small hands went up,
I'm your bladder. You drank a lot of soda today, and I'm feeling full.
said Mayhem.
Oh, another Allstate. Fab.
The farmers' kids in their little business suits began humming again. Erin quieted them down with a smile.
Soon enough. Now, does everyone know about the sorting?
Flo shook her head. Erin said.
Okay, it's super easy.
Just then, a booming voice was heard from the door at the opposite end.
Great. It's time to start. This way.
They were led into a huge room with plenty of visible fire extinguishers and smoke detectors with their lights glowing with fresh batteries. Flo read the sign at the door. Maximum occupancy, 325. Excitement fluttered through her. Long tables with the corners carefully covered with bumpers lined the room. Students sat at the tables, eager faces turned towards the new kids coming into the room. Flo noticed individual refillable bottles of hand sanitizer at every spot. At the front of the room, a handsome man stood in the center and smiled kindly. In the deepest voice Flo had ever heard, he said,
Welcome to Affleck School of Insurance Sales. I am Professor Haysbert, head of the House Allstate and headmaster of this school. A few start of term announcements before the sorting. The general,
he said, indicating a squat man in green at the front table,
has graciously accepted a teaching position in online sales. Professor Burke, head of House Farmers.
He paused to let the students from the farmers' table hum their theme.
Cannot join us tonight, but will be giving tours to new students when he returns tomorrow.
He placed his hands together.
Now, to the sorting. First years, please attend.
He picked up a price code scanner from its place on a purple pillow.
The sorting scanner will decide where each of you will live out over the next several years.
He held out a list.
Jenny.
A nervous girl stepped out from the gaggle of first years. From another table, someone shouted.
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Jenny disappeared and reappeared beside the table to a burst of giggles from the rest of the students. Professor Haysbert laughed.
Ha! Sorted.
He called up the other students one by one. He scanned their arms and sent them to various tables around the room.
Flo?
Flo gulped. She walked up to him, scared.
It's all right.
He said quietly, just for her.
It doesn't hurt.
I just want to save people money.
Said Flo.
Can I tell you a secret?
Said Professor Haysbert. Flo nodded.
We all do.
The scanner felt warm on her arm, and it beeped.
Progressive.
Flo heard a cheer from a table and turned her head to see happy children and a unicorn in a sombrero waiting for her. As she scampered towards them, she felt as though she was finally coming home.
Wow.
Whoa.
So good. Oh, man.
I mean, I don't. Insurance has no business being the focus of such artistic
No.
genius.
No, it really doesn't. But here we are.
It's so good.
I love all the fucking all the little references to like the overboard level of safety, like
Yeah.
the
Yes.
super.
That was something that I was very impressed with because you can very easily make puns based off of existing references from insurance stuff. Which this did and indulged in that, which is hilarious because we all laughed.
Yeah.
But it takes an extra bit to write that kind of level of detail where it's like, how would an insurance-based school operate, and like what would be the precautions and what would be the interior and decorations, and that's the kind of attention to detail and like thought that goes into writing a really particularly great piece of writing.
Yeah.
Which I was just bravo. This was so good. I'm
Yeah.
so happy you guys liked it.
Absolutely.
My favorite was Great Hall, maximum occupancy, 325.
That definitely made me chuckle when I read it first.
It's so subtle.
Well,
and so
I just
brilliant.
want more of the world for that exact same reason, because I agree like 1,000%. That was my favorite part, are just those little minute details about the world around them, rather than just the puns of the things that already exist. So, what is the rest of?
Yeah, I was about to say, is there more?
No.
That's it.
Oh, that's
This is-
criminal.
this is
There's
a
got to be
self-
more of this.
This is a
so good.
self-contained story.
Man.
This is a little one-shot blurb. So, I mean, that falls to us at this point to kind of talk about what we would like to see.
Yeah.
Taha, could you just?
Well, good thing I have insurance on this phone.
Bravo.
Thank you.
Are you
Well,
in
I
good
want to talk
hands?
about Mayhem.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
'cause
he's
kind of
we've
like the
got-
Draco of this. I don't. Oh, okay, so what?
I was gonna say I feel like he's the Ron Weasley.
Uh-huh.
You think so?
Yeah.
Because
Oh,
if we're going by like how Harry Potter was, he's introduced at the train station, and it's the first person that
That's true.
Flo meets. So we've got like potentially Mayhem being Ron and Leslie/Steve being Hermione. But if we want to try him out as Draco, I'm interested to see what you
I want to
wanna
try
think
him out
about
as something a little bit different than Ron.
Uh-huh.
Only for the purpose of knowing from the Mayhem, like the commercials.
Oh yeah.
How
He's
how
a
much of
nasty-
an agent of chaos?
He's
this
a
guy is,
nasty guy.
you know. So like, how is his story gonna play out in this insurance world?
I have one thought.
Okay,
Yeah.
please.
Flo graduates 7 years from now,
Uh-huh.
enters the insurance world, is doing really well. But one day she is visiting Japan, and she goes to a dock and sees Mayhem staring out at the ocean.
Uh-huh.
She's like, Mayhem, oh my God,
Oh, no.
it's been forever. And he's like, he just turns to her with like a red eye, and he's like, I'm a massive nuclear lizard. And I'm coming for the city. And she's like, what do you... And Godzilla rises up. And then we skip the kaiju fight. We skip a week or two ahead in the bedlam that is Tokyo that has been now destroyed.
Uh-huh.
The
And
insurance
Flo's like,
claims.
wow, they really didn't tell us about this in school. And it's all of the insurance people following through with everything that was destroyed by Mayhem's super lizard.
Allstate, Progressive, Farmers,
like,
the General, they
"We
all
didn't
have to
plan
work
for
together
this."
to create insurance claims for everyone whose property was destroyed in the Great Attack.
We need a giant lizard claws.
What does this fall under? Does this fall under natural disaster insurance? Does this fall under weather?
Okay, hold
Giant
on.
lizard claws.
I just figured out the perfect way to tie all of this together, and it's got a very like Eren Yeager feel to it.
Uh-huh.
I think that's what Mayhem, like the role of him being the common enemy of all things. He's
Uh-huh.
like maybe like in his time in school, he sees that like all of the different insurance companies as he sees the flaws in their divisiveness between each other, and he's like, I'm the greatest unifier of the world. I'm going to unite all insurance companies
It's all the
through
same.
my power.
I'm
And
going to
like,
Does he become the Dark Lord Mayhem?
I think
Yes.
Well, it kind of lends itself to that. He learns the ins and outs
Oh,
of
no.
all of the different insurance companies.
So his ideal is that all insurance should be one. So he wants to create
Insurance.
universal health insurance.
What better way to do it than create a
universal
universal
calamity.
calamity that you
Yeah.
have to insure because you can never predict it.
So is he the Dark Lord, or is he simply trying to give health
save
insurance
the
to
world.
even
Exactly.
the common man?
Flo's like bloody arm,
And
like
Flo's
her eyes like shut, and she's like, "You become a monster." And he's like,
you and I want the same thing.
I
I'm just brave enough to do it.
Yes, that's it.
Oh my god.
Flo's like, everyone should be able to choose which insurance company they want.
I'm just trying to save people money by making them buy all sorts of insurance. You're too short-sighted, Flo.
giving it straight to them.
but providing competition between us gives people more affordable rates.
Who needs choices when you have insurance?
It'll cost too much to have a universal insurance, but not nearly as much as it would having all the insurances that you meager people fight over like scraps.
Oh
Damn. I already love that.
Yeah.
I am not here to protect you. I'm here to unify you.
I see like both of his dads like seeing him controlling Godzilla, just like, son, come back to us.
Son.
Since we were both James.
Oh yeah, we were both
Son.
Son.
Son. Come back to us. Come back over here. Stop, Godzilla. God, whoa, look at the size of that Pokemon. Jesse. Jay, man. Go, coughing. Coughing.
Mayhem, what are you doing? What you taught me.
Furthering my abilities.
I'm gonna catch them all under the blanket of my insurance.
I do love this idea though, where suddenly like Flo tries to stop him by herself.
Yeah.
Fails.
Mhm.
And then you see like all the other characters that she went to school with like meeting up in a dark alley, and they're like, "What are you doing here? You and I aren't friends. We were in different houses." And then you just see Flo like step out in a trench coat with a cigarette, and she's like, "Let's not fight. We've got a greater cause here."
I'm imagining.
Dude,
What do you
I
have?
don't know. It's the portal scene from Avengers Endgame.
Oh, yeah.
But instead of portals, you just hear, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. And just like all of these people start showing up, and then oh my god.
You just see Mayhem with his kaiju, and he's like, "You think this is enough?" Then you just hear like,
Hey,
and
Flo.
they're like, "What is that?" And,
And
it
that-
just a cloud of ducks are flying in, like, and other insurance companies are riding on them. They're
The
like,
general.
That actually works perfectly because Mayhem starts every sentence with "I am something,"
Yeah.
so he gets the "I am inevitable."
The general brings a tank. The general just brings an army.
Call 1-800-GENERAL now.
Break the race to get online.
"Don't worry, this baby's insured."
I also imagine a scene where like Flo and Mayhem fight, and Flo's like on the ground, like barely conscious, and right before like her vision fades, you see like a pure white winged figure like flying over her, and like it's getting dark, but then you just hear like "I fly," and then her eyes like
It's like it's got plenty of reverb on it, so it's like and she's like, I may
She wakes
sleep in
up
peace.
in the webbed toes of the duck, flying
flying.
over Middle Earth.
Professor Haysbert is riding the duck, and like looking at Flo, and is like,
You're in good
"You're
hands.
in good hands." Oh
Y'all,
my god.
we need that's the ICU right there.
That's
the
the
Insurance
ICU.
Cinematic Universe.
And it's just a direct copy of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
And
but
the
with
monster
insurance companies
cinematic
instead.
universe.
Yeah.
yeah, it's literally just us ripping off of other things and putting insurance in it.
Yeah,
Correct.
that's. I mean,
Which is what everybody wants, clearly, because you keep writing it.
Yeah.
so good.
It's so awesome.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh,
Hell yeah.
I
Well,
all we can do is find more.
exactly.
That's it.
Well, once again, let me give credit to the author. This was once again Accio Insurance by Merlin Missy, MT Gat, M to Gat.
Mount Gat.
but not MTG.
No.
It could not
No.
possibly. Who would ever? So thank you.
What if they reach out to us and they're like,
It actually was
is
MTG ad. I'm gonna be like, yes.
thank you, Merlin Missy. This gave us an inordinate amount of joy. Honestly, just a grotesque amount. Too much.
I need to call my insurance. I'm having so much joy.
Well, everybody, that's gonna do it
It's
for
funny
us.
because
This
I'm not
episode.
insured.
That's gonna do it for us this episode. Thank you so much for joining us. We had a blast this episode. Is there anything you guys have before we sign out for the day?
Well, it's probably this is going to get released at a different time, but you all might know this at this point when you see this, but all of our Patreon content is now free.
Yes.
Our minisodes, our off the page, all of that will be released free to all of you all to watch. So we'll probably have announcements way prior to the time that you see this, but I'm throwing it out there because it's awesome.
Yeah.
And at present time, we just made this decision. So
Yeah.
in future time,
Yes. We made
Who
this
knows?
decision.
Who
We made
knows?
this decision in the past
Yeah.
right now.
Whoa! What's that? Is that a portal from the past? Oh no, it's us, and they're coming to kill us.
And sign out of this episode.
Oh, well, before we get murdered, I guess it's time for us to sign out.
So as always, remember.
No, seriously, thank you guys for joining us. We'll see you next time, and as always, stay
Stay
strange.
In good hands.
Good hand.